Tonight on NewsWatch, the Supreme Court puts the spotlight on public prayer. More on the argument over prayer at government meetings.
Plus, the single-payer plan, why some are saying it's time to get rid of private insurance providers.
And CBN News goes behind the scenes with one of gospel music's pioneers. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. The Supreme Court is wrestling with the role of religion in government. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Heather Sells. The case the High Court is looking at involves prayers at the start of a New York Town Council meetings. Dale Hurd takes a look at what is at stake in tonight's top story.
The High Court is weighing a federal appeals ruling that said the Rochester, New York suburb of Greece violated the Constitution because nearly all the prayers at town hall meetings in an 11-year period were overtly Christian. One of the residents who prayed at the meetings was Pastor Patrick Medeiros.
In my prayers, I have asked God to bless our community, to bless our leaders, to grant them divine wisdom as they do the people's business there in our community.
But Aisha Khan of Americans United for Separation of Church and State called the prayers unconstitutional.
Participating in one's local government is a universal right of citizenship. It should not be conditioned on recitation of the Lord's Prayer or participation in any other prayer that is unique to a particular faith tradition.
But supporters of the town prayer say even atheists were invited to offer invocations. And the justices' comments and questions today indicated a majority did not agree with the appeals court ruling that the town prayers were unconstitutional.
The other side's arguments would require government to censor prayers, to decree what is orthodox and what is not when prayer givers are giving public prayer, and that would be contrary to our traditions of religious liberty.
A decision is expected by late June. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
And joining us now from Washington is Reverend Rob Shank with the group Faith in Action. Rob, you were inside the Supreme Court today as attorneys made arguments in this case. What can you tell us about today's proceedings?
Well, Mark, it was certainly one of the most spirited debates I've seen on the bench. Well, we call it a debate. It's really a conversation with the justices. They're asking questions of the attorneys. The attorneys are responding, and it was vigorous. There were some very strong opinions on that bench, but all in all, when all was said and done, I was reasonably optimistic that the court may issue an opinion that preserves this very important American tradition that we've enjoyed since before we were a nation.
Well, talk a little bit more about that. What was said that gave you a clue as to how the justices are going to approach the case?
Well, actually, it started out pretty hostile. Justice Kagan was asking some pretty pointed questions about particular prayers that were offered at the Greece Town Council meetings, including explicitly Christian prayers, and that seemed to trouble her deeply, as it did a couple of the other justices. But very soon, other voices were heard, Justice Scalia among them, and defending the fact that we've had this freedom since the beginning of our republic, that it would be impossible to satisfy every group's particular perspective on prayer, especially an atheist. The argument seemed to be we need some kind of generic prayer that's acceptable to all groups. How do you do that with an atheist? How do you present any prayer that would be acceptable to an atheist group? And with the enormous diversity of religions in our country, the idea that you can come up with some kind of general prayer that everyone will be happy with is virtually impossible. And at the end, Justice Kagan, who started out quite negative, seemed to agree with that position. So when it all came out in the end, I remember Justice Kagan saying, when government gets involved in things like religion, things usually go worse, don't they? And everybody seemed to agree with that.
Well, Reverend Shank, what are the implications of this case for religious freedom? Quickly.
Well, enormous, because, of course, we're talking about a very rich tradition that's existed now for the entirety of our nation's history, where citizens have had the right to open their legislative sessions, whether that's a town council meeting or the United States Congress, with prayer. And when it comes to prayer, the individual who's chosen to give that prayer has to have the right to express prayer in the way he or she knows and understands their relationship to God and to the individual, to the one that they are praying to. So for the government to dictate the content of prayer is very distressing. It seemed to bother a lot of the justices today. They didn't seem to be comfortable with the idea of a government officer telling people what is and what is not an acceptable prayer. The government doesn't do a lot of things well, and they most certainly wouldn't do this well. So in the end, I think while some of the justices were sympathetic with those who were objecting to prayer, in the end, I don't think they see a way that they could ever satisfy that. So I'm confident that in the end, we'll be able to preserve the right to pray according to the dictates of our own conscience, according to the way we understand our relationship to God, and that's what constitutes religious freedom.
All right, Reverend Rob Shank, thanks for being with us, sir.
The woman in charge of the failed rollout of the president's health care plan is facing more heat from lawmakers. Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius was back on Capitol Hill today answering another round of questions on the debacle. This time she faced the Senate Finance Committee. Today's hearing comes amid more security concerns about the Obamacare's websites.
Who briefed you on the potential security risks if the launch went forward as planned?
Again, Senator,
Did anybody brief you on the security risks?
we discuss security as part of the overall operations on a regular basis with the operations team, but no one, I would say, suggested that the risks outweighed the importance of moving forward.
Well, I've been suggesting that since April.
Administration officials say the federal exchange sites won't likely be working until the end of November. That leaves people just 2 weeks to sign up if they want coverage by January 1st. Well, as frustration with the president's health care plan continues to grow, a variety of solutions have been offered, including something known as the Singlepayer plan.
Many on the left support the idea, but opponents warn it would send American taxes soaring. Paul Strand reports.
Some critics warn that Obamacare, with its thousands of pages of mandates, rules, and regulations, is sure to cause insurers to have to hike their prices so high, many people will have to flee them. And then there's something called the death spiral. Numerous analysts warn could crash Obamacare.
If young and healthy people don't buy insurance, the insurance pool gets older and sicker. That means the younger and healthier drop out further, premiums rise, and so on until the whole system collapses.
Some liberals are already saying that the problems with Obamacare mean the country should go to a different system, the single-payer plan. Some describe that as a total nationalizing or government takeover, with government being the single payer for health care and no more private insurance.
Well, essentially, single payer is the government operating as the only purchaser of health care for everybody.
Many senators wanted single payer but couldn't get enough votes when Obamacare was hammered out in messy negotiations. This August, Majority Leader Harry Reid said on a local Nevada show,
"Don't think we didn't have a tremendous number of people who wanted a single payer system."
Barack Obama has expressed support for the idea in the past.
I happen to be a proponent of a single payer universal health care plan.
But despite support among some politicians and liberal pundits, critics warn single payer has serious problems.
We really just can't afford this.
So that could mean that U.S. taxes would have to go up, way up. Paul Roderick Gregory writes in Forbes that to have a single payer system like Europe, quote, Americans would pay about 45% of their earnings for federal taxes on income alone. And Tanner argues that single-payer systems lead to rationing health care.
A single-payer system cannot provide unlimited health care to everyone. It would simply bankrupt the country. So it's going to have to limit care in some ways, and that's going to be sort of arbitrary top-down rationing, if you will.
Tanner and others point to the problems some countries already have with single-payer, like Britain.
There's about 750,000 people awaiting admission to National Health Service hospitals every year. They cancel some 50,000 surgeries every year because the patient got too sick on the waiting list for them to go forward.
When you talk about healthcare reform in Britain, the first thing, is, well, how is your proposal going to reduce the waiting list? I mean, that's the first question they ask.
In Canada today, there's about 800,000 people on the waiting list, and no less than the Canadian Supreme Court, which is hardly known as a right-wing organization, in a 2005 case said that some people were going to die while on the waiting list up there.
Will the U.S. end up moving to single payer? It would be a tough sell. Obamacare is already proving massively unpopular. The president's promises of keeping your health plan and doctor haven't proven true. And critics say single payer would be even worse.
The problem with a single payer system ultimately is that it means someone else besides you is going to be making decisions about your health care.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Voters in key states went to the polls in the first major election since President Obama's win last year. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie used his 20-point victory to present himself as a potential presidential candidate for 2016.
Maybe the folks in Washington, D.C. should tune in their TVs right now, see how it's done.
Christie got huge support from voters outside the traditional GOP base, like women, Hispanics, and African Americans. He even won over a third of Democrats. In Virginia, it was nearly a historic comeback for Republican Ken Cuccinelli. He had been trailing far behind Terry McAuliffe since the race started. But the Obamacare rollout disaster gave Cuccinelli an unexpected boost. McAuliffe ended up beating out the Republican candidate by only 2 percentage points. Analysts say Tuesday's results could give Americans some indication of what next year's midterm elections could bring.
Illinois is set to become the 15th state to redefine marriage. Despite an existing civil unions law, state lawmakers voted 61-54 Tuesday to allow same-sex couples to wed. The bill now heads to Governor Pat Quinn, who says he'll sign it. Meanwhile, a group of Chicago pastors opposed to the law say they will stand behind lawmakers who voted against it and fight against those who did not. The African American Clergy Coalition sent out robocalls objecting to same-sex marriage. It is also vowing to run primary challenges against lawmakers who supported the bill.
Coming up, how the church is working to bring help and hope to victims of that recent earthquake in the Philippines.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
It's hard trying to make ends meet. Stuck with no choices I don't like defeat. By my side is where you'll stay. It will be a brand new day. Checking up is easy to do. Here's to freedom for me and you. By my side, it's here you'll stay. It's a brand new world today.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
It's hard trying to make ends meet. Stuck with no choices I don't like defeat. By my side is where you'll stay. It will be a brand new day. Checking up is easy to do. Here's to freedom for me and you. By my side, it's here you'll stay. It's a brand new world today.
A little over 2 weeks ago, a massive earthquake rocked the province of Bohol in the central Philippines. While some in the area fear aftershocks, many others are dealing with the loss of their loved ones.
Through it all, CBN Disaster Relief has been there, providing trauma counseling as people begin to rebuild their lives. Lucille Toulousan reports.
Joanne Luga is overcome by grief each time she recalls how her sons, aged 3 and 4, died in the earthquake.
It's so hard to believe that my sons are dead. It happened so fast. They were good boys. They always wanted to help me with everything I do. But now they're gone.
On that fateful day, October 15th, Joanne's boys were very happy because their father brought home this bunch of bananas. But just after a few seconds, the 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck. And in an instant, their house collapsed. And they found their 2 boys lying under this concrete debris. One was found dead on the spot. The other one did not make it to the hospital alive. Fortunately, her 2-month-old baby was pulled away before the bedroom walls fell on the hammock where he was sleeping. A family member convinced Joanne to attend a CBN medical mission in their village. This was the first time since the earthquake residents here received medical help. And the first time many shared stories on how the earthquake has affected them. A CBN counselor helped Joanne cope with her tragic loss. After hearing a salvation message, she surrendered her life and sorrows to Jesus. Her face lit up after the prayer.
I feel so light. I feel relieved from the heaviness in my heart.
Dr. Kim Pascual heads up CBN's disaster relief work in the Philippines. She examined Joanne and her baby and gave them rice, noodles, sardines, vitamins, and diapers. Some CBN staff walked Joanne home so they can minister to her husband, Edward. The sudden death of their sons made him depressed and confused. For the first time, Edward vented his feelings of deep sadness and guilt. He too prayed to receive Jesus in his life.
I'm very thankful that you have come to us. I realize that there is still hope, and all I need to do is trust God.
Because of your help, I can smile. I am happy because there are people like you who care for us.
The greatest need here is counseling and a listening ear. CBN would bring in our counseling center to teach trauma counseling to the existing churches in Bohol so that they too can reach out and help the people.
A lot of people still need help, and every day CBN disaster relief teams are visiting unreached areas, sharing with the earthquake victims food, medical care, and God's love. Lucille Toulousan, CBN News, Bohol, Philippines.
For more on what CBN disaster relief teams are doing in the Philippines and around the world, visit our website, cbnnews.com.
Up next, meet the Grammy-winning producer who has helped revolutionize gospel music.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
For over 3 decades, Bobby Jones has been producing the gospel TV show that bears his name. He's also launched the careers of hundreds of recording artists.
Now, for the first time, he is revealing that he suffered through a painful childhood. In tonight's Focus Report, John Jessup brings us this exclusive look at the music legend's life and his legacy.
For millions across the country, soul-stirring music like this fills their homes each Sunday on cable TV. And though it takes a small army to put the show together,
thank you, Dr. Jones, for everything. We love you and you're awesome.
The man behind its success is Bobby Jones, now in his 33rd year producing the program that bears his name.
Even when I get ready to go into the studio, I just say, Lord, what a privilege it is that you use me to be a vehicle to bring so many people closer to you and to bring joy, love, peace, and happiness.
Jones's show got its start from humble beginnings. From 30 minutes on a single Nashville station, it's grown into a network broadcast ministering to millions.
Little did I ever think it was the first show produced for BET, my show. And we built this organization, you know, gospel music.
A former grade school teacher, Jones is now considered a musical trailblazer, earning a Grammy with country music star Barbara Mandrell and recognized by former President George W. Bush for revolutionizing the gospel music industry and exposing numerous gospel music artists to the world. Did that surprise you?
Man, did it. That was one of my, that was my high points.
But beneath the fame and flashy suits are some of his lowest points.
I began at a very early age protecting myself, from the abuse, verbal, physical, and I was confronted with a lot of that.
Jones tells CBN News he survived growing up in a home with an alcoholic dad. He says bitterness took hold as he watched his father mistreat his mom and siblings. He believes God's grace helped him eventually forgive his father, and now he's using his testimony to encourage others.
So I just lived life. I went ahead to do the things that I thought that I could do to overcome that situation, and I just wanted to leave that total environment. And it's a lot of people who may be in position now that I was in then, they'll just have to leave it, find a way to get around it. And that's a part of life.
His music and positive personality have earned him loyal fans.
You came all the way in from New Jersey.
Yes.
Okay, just to see the Bobby Jones gospel
this morning, yes. Because I'm a fan of his, and it was just my opportunity to come out, so I took it and I'm here.
Bobby Jones Gospel has played a prominent part of BET's programming lineup since the network premiered back in 1980. 3 decades later, his show is still going strong, contributing to the success of the network and launching the careers of hundreds of gospel music recording artists.
Dr. Jones' show has been the outlet for every major artist over the last almost 30 years. And when I started in the group commission in 1990, my first national performance from a television standpoint was on Bobby Jones Gospel.
For Grammy winner Erica Campbell, she always dreamed about one day singing on the show.
When I think of Dr. Jones, I think of being a little girl sitting in front of the TV on Sundays, waiting for an opportunity to just be on his show.
Now she calls him a friend and appreciates his openness to showcase different styles like gospel jazz or rap.
Most times you don't get that. If it's one show, you get one type of music, you get what the host likes, and that's about it, but he's not that way.
Singer James Fortune describes himself as a product of Bobby Jones's legacy and says the show is not about music, but ministry.
He's selfless, that it's not all about him, that he's not just concerned about Dr. Bobby Jones making it, but he understands the kingdom principle is that we're all doing this together for the kingdom of God.
And at 75, Jones says he has no plans of slowing down.
You just did 2 shows. You're about to do your 3rd.
Yeah.
Where do you get the energy?
Well, you know, I do this for Jesus. Yeah, well, stop. You know, I will when I have to. But if I don't have to, as long as the Lord's will, here I go.
John Jessup, CBN News.
Bye-bye, y'all. See you next week.
Washington.
Up next, meet the couple expecting their second set of triplets when we come back.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Well, having one baby is a big transition, but having triplets, that's another story.
A family in Indiana is getting ready to experience that firsthand for a second time. The Ember Witch just found out that they are expecting a second set of triplets. Bill and Sarah originally thought they wouldn't be able to have any children. After successful in vitro, they had a boy. After 3 years, they tried again and were surprised when they found out Sarah was pregnant with triplet boys. A year later, Sarah got pregnant a third time, and their jaws dropped when they saw the ultrasound.
We were hoping for a girl, and then of course they start to count, it's like 1, 2.
And he said, "What do you see?" And I said, "I see 2. He said, "Look again." And I said, "I see 3. And he said, "I see 3 too." I look at all these babies and I can't imagine doing anything else. I really can't. They are just, blessed.
And the new triplets are girls.
And I just hope they have a good church behind them. That's
Yes.
what I hope.
Yeah, to provide a lot of diapers for them.
Yeah, a lot. That's all for this edition of NewsWatch.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We appreciate your time. Have a good night.